Envy is prompted by a hostility of coveting. And its cousin is jealousy. Jealousy is a hostility prompted by fear. Jealousy is fueled by a sense of scarcity. If he or she has this, there won't be any for me, or there won't be enough for me. In either case, whether we're in touch with envy or jealousy, it's splitting hairs. It can easily hijack us from living the life we've been given, of claiming the fullness of the life that's been handed to us.
Welcome to Great Practice, Great Life by Atticus Incorporated. What if you could hang out with successful small and solo law firm attorneys, ask them about their successes and failures, their business strategies and mindset habits, then take an insight or two to guide your own growth in your practice? Each week, Steve Riley shares an in-depth look at how to work less while maintaining high client service standards, reduce your stress levels while growing your income, and find time to make changes when you are time-starved. Steve is a lawyer coach for more than 20 years and a former trial attorney. His goal is to provide strategies to help you balance your lives and grow your practice. Now, here's Steve.
Hi, it's Steve Riley. Welcome to this episode of Great Practice, Great Life. And today I have the rare privilege and pleasure of bringing back one of my favorite people who I don't get to spend any time with. So I'm using this podcast as a total excuse, a Trojan horse into his life. And that's Brother Curtis. So Brother Curtis, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Steve.
It's great to have you here. Every time we have you share your perspective of the world, it makes a difference. So thanks for making the time. And you're at your own special retreat today. You were just kind of describing where you're at. So go ahead and describe to our audience where you're at, just so people can have a image of what you're doing.
Well, I'm Steve, as you will know, I'm a monk, and I've lived in a monastery in Cambridge, Massachusetts for almost 40 years. Today, I happen to be at a house in Cape Cod owned by sisters in a convent, and the house they welcomed my brothers and me to use on occasion. So I'm down with the ocean on your right, the Atlantic Ocean.
That's beautiful. So it sounds like a wonderful, quiet, peaceful place.
It is.
And so it's a perfect place to allow us to have a conversation today. And my request is, you are an incredible influence and thought leader from the perspective that you allow me to reflect and learn things that I don't quite know what to do with. And I think from my perspective, being a monk for 40 years and helping people deal with certain issues, it gives you a unique perspective of the world. And that's what I'm hoping you bring today. And I've got a particular topic, one that I've wrestled with, one that I know a lot of our clients wrestle with because I hear it. I hear it in their voices. And they look at other lawyers and they look at other people and they look at other team leaders and they go, why can't I be like them? Why can't I be like that? And I think I'll use an example. This is just a silly example. There's a musician named Harry Connick Jr. And Harry is a songwriter. He plays a piano. He's been a movie star. He is a brilliant, gifted comedian. And he's married to a Victoria's Secret supermodel. And I keep saying, come on, good Lord, why could you not give me one of those? Like, we're somewhere in there. Or how did Harry get it all? Like, how did he get the looks? How did he get the talent? How did he get the humor? How did he get the Victoria's Secret model? Hopefully my wife doesn't hear this one. But all these things that seem to play out really well. And so I'll get straight up jealous and I'll get envious. And it seems to me that steals joy from me. It steals me being present. It steals me being aware what I can do with my own life because I'm being distracted by someone else's life. So I want to talk to you about that. Just have you talk to me for a few minutes about the roots of envy and how envy shows up and how you advise people about dealing with this very powerful emotion.
Yes, thank you, Steve. Steve, first, I'll just give a disclaimer or qualifier. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a psychotherapist. As I said, I'm a monk, and so I'm not able to help those in the Atticus family um, with your professional practice. Um, but I'm glad to make some comments about your personal practice of life, which I think will make a world of difference. And I've used a word here, which uh, in my world we hold in common with the world of lawyers and financial professionals and psychotherapists, and that's practice, which comes from the Greek, then the Latin, praxis, which is how we act on our belief, how we live out our values. Um, there's a guiding principle in becoming a monk that's been claimed down through the centuries, that one becomes a monk to become real. I don't think you have to enter a monastery to become real. Some of us just need some extra help. I think you can be where you are, as you are, doing what you're doing to become real. But it takes intentionality, and to that I'd like to speak. Um, one other qualifier or disclaimer is that I'm a monk, and so you would rightfully infer that religion figures prominently into my life. It is so. Uh, the etymology of the word religion comes from the Latin religare, uh, which means to bind fast. Um, it's from the same etymological root as a ligament, religion, ligament, which is a band of tough tissue that binds the bones together. Comes from the same etymology as rely. And so I'm with whatever with whatever the higher power is that the Atticus family members will look to. My presumption is that though you don't need in any way to embrace the religion that I do, um, about which I'm not going to speak, I think that you do need some kind of higher power that is bigger than you. Uh, and I'll say more about this because life is an enlarging and then a diminishing experience. And you need a higher power, you need help um, in some kind of manifestation that's bigger than who and what you are. Uh, those of us in helping professions, uh, I think, need help. So I'll lobby here for the priority of being a human being, which I think precedes a human doing. That we are much more than doing beings. We're much more than what we make happen. Um, and the English word vocation, vocare, is our calling. And I think our calling is first and foremostly what we are called to be. And I think that if we are not clear about what we're called to be, our vocation, um, we don't have enough ballast in our soul to help us weather through the changes and chances of life, because life is going to change, the external is going to change, and what we call our work is going to change for sure. At the very least, it will change because at some point we're either going to uh, leave the work we're currently doing right now or retire from it, um, and or we're going to die for sure. And so what I'm lobbying for is being in touch with what we're called to be, which I think precedes what we're called to do. If we're clear about what we're called to be, I think this will last us well through this life. Say a little bit more about that later. Steve, uh, you've asked me to comment on the emotion of envy and jealousy, which I think is a kind of fatal attraction for many people. Envy is a kind of um, hostility prompted by, I use an old-fashioned word here, coveting. Envy is a hostility prompted by coveting. I I want and I need to have what she or he has. And that, I think, would prompt a question. Why is that so? Why is it that you need that? I think that's worth asking. Envy is prompted by a hostility um, um, of coveting. And its cousin is jealousy. Jealousy is a hostility prompted by fear. Jealousy uh, is fueled by a sense of scarcity. If he or she has this, there won't be any for me, or there won't be enough for me. In in either case, whether we're in touch with envy or jealousy, it's splitting hairs. It can easily hijack us from living the life we've been given, of claiming the fullness of the life that's been handed to us. And I would say that envy uh, and jealousy are self-defeating, um, because uh, because we're ultimately going to lose what we're envious of. Um, and I say lose it in two contexts. For one, we're going to wake up some morning. Uh, we're going to wake up some morning chastising ourselves because we can't believe that we've invested so much energy or anger or obsessive thinking in this external thing that we felt we wanted or needed to have. I think that it ultimately doesn't work. And secondly, what I've just alluded to before is that we are not permanent, that we will die. We will die suddenly, or we will die by diminishment. And whatever it is that we've externalized that we think we have to have to be who we think we are, is going to sift through our fingers like sand. I think the fuel for envy, the fuel for jealousy, comes out of our own self-regard or lack thereof. That if I don't have this, or if I don't achieve this, I won't matter. If I'm not listed as the best of the best in such and such a context, if I don't have this number of clients, if I don't have this level of income, if I don't have these number of homes, whatever's on the list, I will not be fully alive, or I won't fully belong, or to go deeper than that, I won't be loved.
It shows up like a missing. It's like a missing, like it shows up like a missing.
Yeah, yeah, I would say exactly so. The last thing I said was is that if I don't have this, I won't be loved. It's externalizing the conditions by which I'll be loved. I think that all of us learned rules for being loved, going back to our family of origin. Um, uh, I think that, to use Piaget's terms, before higher operations, before we could actually make sense out of what we're being taught, we had learned that that we have to do certain things, become certain things, act in certain ways, achieve certain things to be loved, to matter, to belong. Um, I I'm oftentimes having the privilege of listening to people talk about their life, and they will name something which to them is self obvious. It's a qualifier for what gives them meaning in life, or what is required for them to have meaning in life. And I'll ask them something along the lines of, who taught you that? Where did you learn that? Where did you learn that you have to be such and such, or you have to have such and such? Um, and for most people, when they're in touch with rules that are limiting or qualifying about how they must act to be loved, what they must achieve to be loved, it goes back to their family of origin. Not that their parents or significant caregivers would intentionally have hurt them or limited them in this way. I mean, most likely not. But all of us learn the rules for how we matter in life. And if we don't get in touch with those qualifiers um, and meet them head on in our own soul, we're going to project them and work them out in our relationship with others. And the shadow side of it is envy and jealousy. I think if someone is in touch with envy and jealousy, uh, a helpful question can be why? Why do you need this? Why is this important? And I don't mean that as a dismissive question, like, why do you need that? I don't mean that at all. I mean that as a very respectful question. Why does that matter so much? I was talking with a man, this is some years ago, who had achieved every external thing that one could hope to realize in life. And I said, do you have an unmet goal out there? And he looked a little sheepish, and he said, "Well, actually, he did." And he named an Italian sports car, which I'd only heard of. I'd never seen one of these things uh, that just cost a fortune. And he he said that he wanted to have this car. He wanted to have one of these very rare models. And and he said, "What do you think?" And I think that's very important to you. I'm going to ask you a question. And he said, "Sure." And I said, "So, why? Why is this important?" And so he said, he talked about the design of the car and the engine and the craftsmanship, and it was just amazing. He said he said, I've always wanted this." And I said, "Let me ask you another question." And I said, "Why?" Well, he said, I've always wanted this since I was a little kid. And with his permission, I kept asking him why. A- And he said, because when I was small, we didn't have a car like this. And I said, "And you had what kind of car?" She said, we had an old beat up car. Um, my father was always in between work. We didn't have much money. And I was so embarrassed. I felt ashamed when my father would take me to school because I didn't want anyone to see my car, see our family car. And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I felt second rate." And and so I kept asking him, with his permission, questions. And finally, he said, with tears in his eyes, he said, "Because if I don't have this car," he said, "I can't believe I'm saying this, I won't be completely loved. I mean, I won't be accepted. I won't matter to the people that matter the most to me." And he sat weeping. He just sat weeping. And I said, "Is the car going to do it?" And he said, "I don't think so. I don't think so." And he said, "Maybe I've just outed myself now. Maybe." maybe I don't need the car. But we talked an amount more about that. Uh, but I think that's where he had externalized um, what it would take for him to belong, to be fully alive, to really matter. Uh, and he was able to claim a kind of uh, inner way um, to know that he had a place in this world and that he was lovable.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because in our community we have some very, very successful lawyers and successful team members, and they compete on what I would call um, achievement trophies, status trophies, the car, the house, uh, and a lot of it, once they achieve it, doesn't mean a lot. And in fact, some of them get somewhat embarrassed once they achieve it. Like, okay, now I got this thing that I thought would mean something. Like I achieved this really big victory. Like I got this really cool car, whether Italian sports car or a German sports car, or any of those European sports cars just seem really expensive, just, whatever it is. But when you think about it, it really, your questions are very powerful because it's reflective of kind of a unearthed envy, an unearthed jealousy, an unearthed shame of where do I fit? How do I fit? Where do I belong? And it seems to me, as you kind of took a shovel to this guy's feelings around this car, that you allowed him to unearth fairly significant belief that this particular car would never ever have satisfied. Like it would be, if he got this car, he said, well, maybe it's not this model. Maybe I should have gotten the other model. Or maybe, I should have gotten the model with this. So it's a pretty powerful inquiry. For people who are listening, what questions, I mean, the why is a very powerful question. So it seems like to me, envy and jealousy are, as I'm listening to you, and you can correct me, um, but they seem to be very instructive and educational
I think they're very revealing. They're
and
very
revealing.
revealing.
And
Yeah.
and almost mirrors. Like if you can notice, like for me in my story about Harry Connick Jr., like there's some things there I'm like, so what's the deal? And so for me, envy for me is I get jealous. I should say I get envy for me is I get angry with God or get angry with the superior being, saying, okay, how come he got everything, right? Um, and many people can have this experience no matter where they are in their life because they're not coming from a place of gratitude, appreciating what they do have. They're looking for what they don't have, which is in itself kind of a waste of time, right? So, it's kind of a waste of time. Like once you realize, well, I'm just wasting time here. I'm avoiding being accountable for where I'm at. I'm avoiding what I could do. I had a mentor and coach to me one time say, quit quit trying to play cards with the quit playing poker with the hand you wish you had. Play cards with the hand that you currently do have. Um, so talk to me more. I mean, if someone's listening to this and you're saying, okay, look, it's okay to be with the envy. It's okay to be with the jealousy, as long as you're not acting out. Coveting is a very powerful word. It's a very, very powerful word. But looking at where's that coming from? What's kind of what you did with this gentleman in the Ferrari? I'm assuming it's a Ferrari. I'm just making it up. I don't know. Um, how would you coach me through it? How would you help someone who's listening to this kind of be okay with the intense emotion of envy, the okay with the intense emotion of jealousy, to examine it, to look at it, bring it out, into the daylight and look at it and say, what's going on here?
Yeah.
I don't like that face, Brother Curtis. I've
No,
seen that
I'm
face
just
before.
I'm
I'm getting
I'm
nervous. That's a
I'm
very
just
difficult. And those are people on YouTube watching this. I've seen that face before. I'm sitting back. Okay, go ahead. Hit me with it.
no, I'm just I want to honor your question and be thoughtful here. Well, as I have the invitation to listen to people, the principle that informs the kind of listening we typically do is that we're the keeper of questions and not the giver of answers. We're the keeper of questions. And so what I mostly do is ask questions. And uh, with your permission, I'm always asking for permission because I want you to be involved with this. I want you to be volitional in this. Say, so why is this an issue? Why are you telling me this? Uh, and I'm inferring that you're talking. I don't know. I'm inferring that you might be talking about this because there's something that does not leave you at ease with this emotion, or there's something that's not working, something that's not fulfilling. I I don't know. May I ask you that question? If you brought up something, I mean, do you want to bring up something, and I'll ask you some questions, Steve.
No, that's a great question. So that's a great question. So since we're getting vulnerable here, um,
Well,
well, no,
it's
no,
just,
it's okay, it's okay. It's one of the things for me, and this is just for me personally. I don't think I've ever discussed this with anybody. It's the danger of having you on the show. Um, Whenever I catch myself being envious or jealous, I have to remind myself, and this is kind of, I guess, my strategy, that's a waste of time. It's a waste of emotion. It's a waste of what precious time I have because there's very little I can do with it other than suffer from it. And usually, where I get envious is I get envious of my younger self as I aged. I get envious of my healthier self where I squandered youth. The Oscar Wilde joke that, youth is wasted on the young. So I get envious and jealous of things that have opportunities that have passed. And I might spend too much time there versus spending time here, if that makes sense. So part of it's kind of a personal practice, like when I catch myself like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. What's going on there? And like what's happening there? Um, so I guess for me it's kind of like smelling smoke. Like I smell smoke and I'm like, okay, something's on fire, I don't feel good about this. Why am I burning myself with this fire of envy and jealousy? And I don't have your skill set. I don't have the keeper of questions. I just have myself that I'm wrestling with. I don't know. Does that communicate? Does that make sense to you at all?
well, it's very moving to hear you speak, Steve. I mean, the most important is it makes sense to you. That's I that's what I first affirm. But I hear what you're saying, and I come to your defense on this with, let's say that you are, and you would not be alone in this. Look back on life, and um, uh, if it's a tough memory, to say, why did I waste such and such on this or that? Or if it's a very tender, vulnerable emotion, like, oh, if only I could be back there. And now I'm older, I'm whatever kind of disqualifier we may be in touch with. I, I would come to your defense on that. And rather than use kind of your adult side to kick yourself out of that, to say, come on, get with it. Here you are. I would rather, hear you share that very tenderly and ask you. So go back to when you were whatever age that you're in touch with when you were younger. That seemed so full of possibility. If only you could go back to that. So I would ask you, with your permission, I would say, so what is it about then that is so attractive? What are you in touch with as you look back on that? What was that about? Um, and I don't know what you would name. Like maybe you had so many different possibilities. I mean, your life seemed much more freer, or maybe you felt I felt like I was so handsome. I was 20 pounds lighter. I don't know what you'd say, but you're in touch with some.
No,
So,
it's a great question. It was
but I would welcome you to do that,
yeah.
and to say talk about that, and 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 with your permission, I'd say so. And did you fully realize that then? I mean, were you in touch with then what you're in touch with now about being that age? My hunch is, given what I'm hearing you say, is no, not. You can see some things with clearer perspective now with some years as you look back on your life. Um, and so if you'd find it meaningful, we'd keep talking about that. I would also then, coming to your defense, say, so what is it now from the perspective that you have now with years that you could not see when you were this, whatever, 18-year-old? What can you see now that really matters in life? What what can you see now that life is about, or what your life is about, your vocation, your calling, what you're to be? And I would, with your permission, I would tease that out of you because I think it's right there, and would say I think that the two of you, that is the Steve who's in the present right now, the here and now, and the Steve whom you remember who was 18. I think you need each other. You belong to each other, and I think you can be best friends. I mean, I think you are they.
That's a very interesting way of framing it because you are they. And so I'll answer the question, talk to you why it intrigues me just for a moment. And then I think this keeper of question things, I think you got a career here. I'm just saying, I think you might be good at this. I think you might have a career here. This whole monk thing, I think it works for you. Hey, Steve, I just want to talk to you for a minute about probably my favorite workshop to teach right now. It's called The Path to a Great Practice and a Great Life. So it doesn't matter if you're a member or if you're new to Atticus, this is a perfect place to come and start your journey of what a great practice and a great life looks like to you. There are 4 elements to the workshop. The first is about your income. If you're going to have a great practice and a great life, you're going to need some cash. One of the questions I always get asked is there a shortcut? Is there a quicker and easier way of making more money? There is, but there's a catch to it. In order to make more money, you want to study how other lawyers have increased the income and the growth of their practice. One of the things we've done at Atticus for the past 35 years is study what the top 20% earners, 10% earners, and ultimately, what do the top 1% earners do? One of the things that we do is reveal and look at what are the 4 core strategies of a top 1% attorney and how you can learn from that 1%er in increasing your practice. And that can be your shortcut. To grow your practice faster, you need to have a bold vision for what your life looks like. The wind in your sails for growth is ultimately the vision of what a great life looks like. In my experience, lawyers that have a terrific, powerful vision for a great life will grow a great practice quicker, faster, and more efficiently than those who don't. It's one thing to have a dream. It's another thing to take action and build foundations under that dream. That's the next thing that we'll work on the workshop. What are the steps you're going to take immediately from the workshop to start building on your vision of a great life and great practice? So if you're a fan of the conversation of what a great practice and great life looks like, this is the greatest opportunity for you to take action now. Register for the workshop so we can work together on taking your vision of your great practice and great life and making it come to life. A link to register is included in the show notes, as well as a longer video by me explaining each element of the workshop. If you're a member of Atticus, it's included already in your membership. If you're new to Atticus, I'm giving you a promo code that will take $500 off. All you have to do is click the link below and put in podcast 500 and it'll get you the discount. So hit the link, register for the workshop. I look forward to seeing you there. With that, I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. So, I'll give you the exact sample and maybe this will get edited out. Maybe it'll stay in. So When I was in my late 20s, early 30s, starting the practice, starting the family, um, I think I came from a place of fear, came from a place perhaps of jealousy and scarcity, and sometimes was so worried about the future that I wasn't particularly present to that time period. And I think for some of the younger members of the Atticus community, I worry for them and I try and tell them where you're at right now is a beautiful place to be. The kids are great. Your spouse is healthy and strong. Life is good for you right now. What you're missing now doesn't matter because when you get to the point where you have achieved all the things that you think you need to achieve, um, then you'll just see things radically differently. And my goals today are, and that's why you're so important to me, and I'm so grateful that you're here today, is most of my goals today are more what I would call contribution goals, not achievement goals. I do not drive a European sports car. I drive, and I will be mocked for this, I drive a old white minivan that I bought my wife a BMW for her birthday. She used to have a white minivan, and I just drive the car. I don't go anywhere. I really don't care what people think about me when I'm driving the car. I call it the swagger wagon. It's not a status car. And I don't particularly care too much about that right now. Like, it's like not that important to me. But it is a funny thing among my friends, nonetheless. So I think where I'm at now is the young man who I was then, who was scared. I think I'm trying to reach out to anyone who's kind of in that same spot. And I think that's part of why the podcast is important to me, why you're important to me, is to let them know, like, hey, I promise you it's going to be okay. It looks terrifying at this moment. You're on a high dive, you're getting ready to jump. It looks scary. It's going to be okay. I promise you, once you land in the water, it's warm, you're going to swim, you'll get to wherever you're going. It's all going to be perfect. And as long as you have an awareness and kind of the conversation that you're bringing, like the vocation, the grounding, the sense of purpose, the practice of law is a practice. It has an intentionality. While we're serving other human beings, we're trying to help them with complex problems. Our team members are trying to help them with complex problems. There is emotional wear and tear on us. And we are recruited and trained to be competitive creatures. We're recruited and trained to advocate. We're recruited and trained to go to battle. We're recruited and trained to resolve disputes and create disputes in some cases. And you pay an emotional price for that. And I think the conversation for you and I, and the reason that I think you bring such an incredibly humane perspective, is to give my brothers and sisters of the bar, my Atticusins, a grounding in an emotional awareness, like an emotional intelligence almost, around how to cope with these very powerful, in my eyes, not yours, my eyes, wasteful emotions. But now I'm starting to think that envy might be, and jealousy might be, just what you're teaching me, instructive and reflective, right?
That's what I'm thinking. I wouldn't use the adjective wasteful. I mean, I think what you're tapping into here, I think they're very instructive. They're very revealing, and they shouldn't be dismissed. Or they shouldn't be corrected. I think I think they need to be faced. I think it's an invitation to face them because I think they are so instructive, and facing into them could actually be an experience of liberation because we may be imprisoned by a memory. I mean, when you were speaking, Steve, you named just in passing when you were younger that I think you said there's some fear around scarcity, that there wasn't enough or wouldn't be enough. Um, and that is a very informing and can be deforming emotion. But I think it can also be very instructive too. And that can be that emotion, which could be imprisoning, could actually be liberated and could inform compassion and insight for other people. And I think when we've been able to claim things which have been part of our formation or deformation in the past, we can recognize these same qualities in others, sometimes even before they've finished their sentence. We already know where they've come from. Um, uh, and so I think the real assets, what can be such seeming limitations, can be real assets in terms of what we bring to the table and what we bring to life.
It's very interesting because really it unlocks the door. So what you said, I like the way you said that it liberates, it frees me from that past,
Yeah.
that past emotional, what I perceive today as a mistake. And, I was just a dad who started a practice trying to make sure I had enough food on the table to feed 2 kids and feed my employees that were counting on me. And those are very stressful things. And that's where I see a lot of my friends in Atticus, being in that spot where they're like, payroll's this and I got that and I got this. And they're really worried about certain things. And I'm like, it's going to be okay. I promise. Just keep doing what you're doing. It'll all work out. Everything will be totally fine. Enjoy your family. Enjoy the time with your family. Take time with your family because it will happen in a moment. Um,
So,
and
Steve,
yes, sir.
no, no, please.
No, go ahead.
No, sir. You please.
So I think that was my
So,
point. Go ahead.
yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You speak with real authority here, right out of your soul. So, Steve, if you'd go a level deeper than what you've just spoken now, it's going to be okay. Keep on keeping on. Da, 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 da. If you go a level deeper than that, um, what I think intuitively that's come out of your own life, your own practice of life, what would you say is most important? If you're talking with someone and you're giving the assurance that it's going to be okay as you're looking down the road, what about in the present? What about the practice of the present that is most important? What's most important for you is, from my own experience, what's most important to keep in touch with, to stay on speaking terms with, to embrace, uh, to um, claim every day, every moment there. What would you say? What would you say?
I think you nailed it. Being present to the day, enjoying the moment, enjoying the experience, enjoying the friendship. It's one of the things I enjoy when I get to talk to you. I enjoy the relationship. I enjoy learning from you. One of the practices, and it's a very silly practice, but it's a very powerful practice that my wife and I have, is we will have coffee and watch the sun come up together. And it's one of the practices that we have that's a gratitude practice. So we usually sit there enjoying a cup of coffee, enjoying each other while we can, and enjoying, this remarkable sunrise. And it becomes a foundational practice for the day. It's a foundational practice for us because the sunrise itself is probably 4 minutes, but before it rises, it's 15 to 20 minutes. Every day it's different for me. Every day she's different. Every day something's going on somewhere in life where there's something, whether the dogs need to go out or somebody needs something or I need to go somewhere or got this appointment, that appointment. This becomes a foundational practice for us to be present to each other, present to the sunrise. And that becomes a foundational part of my day. Like that's part of my great day. So
May I ask you a question, Steve?
sure, please. You seem to turn this whole podcast thing around on me, but go ahead.
Well, 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 well. So you use the adjective repeatedly, practice, foundational practice. What does that word mean, foundational?
For me, it's something I stand on. Like it's a practice I stand on. Like it's a core habit, a core.
Uh, uh-huh.
All right,
Uh-huh.
go ahead. You see something. You have a point. Go ahead, Brother Curtis. What is it?
No, I'm just listening because I'm listening to what you're in touch with here. A a core practice. Yeah. So I'm wondering, Steve, I'm just thinking about you in your own work in Atticus as you're talking with people. Let's say we were the context we're speaking now is about people who are anxious, looking down the road, just fearful about it's all going to come together and da 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 da. So I'm thinking that one of the things you bring to the table is encouraging a client, someone, a member of the Atticus family, to claim a foundational practice or claim some foundational practices, which sounds to me the way you're speaking will inform the day, will inform life. Is that so?
I think that's yes. I think that's so. I think it's totally accurate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, and in the monastic tradition, monks typically live under a rule of life, um, rule from the Latin regula, which is a kind of measuring, a kind of some people have defined it as like a garden trellis that allows the plant some kind of structure on which to grow. And I'm thinking the way you speak now, when you talk about foundational practice, that is the way monks talk about a rule of life or a rhythm of life. And and you may have in your own practice of life other foundational practices which you're either conscious of or maybe you're not conscious of, but you do uh, you engage in them faithfully as a matter of the way you navigate your way through life, the way you navigate your way through the day. I suspect you've got maybe a number of things that are foundational practices in your life. How you treat people, who matters, uh, why you have hope, um, uh, what your presumption is about someone, whether it be a child or an adult who's quote unquote acting out. Or I mean, I bet you've got some foundational practices or foundational perceptions that inform how you navigate through life, which are wonderful to claim when the weather changes. I mean, it sounds like in Florida, if there's a day when you don't have a sunrise, maybe a terrible storm like you all in Florida have experienced now these last number of weeks, my hunch is that how you're describing what you get in touch with the sunrise, you and your wife, is still going to be a part of your life, sunrise or not, your foundational practice.
I think that's very well said. I think it's a relationship practice, and the sunrise is an excuse to continue the relationship practice. So it's an act of love and gratitude around the relationship. The sunrise is just perfect timing, if
Yeah,
that makes
yeah,
sense. Gratitude for
yeah,
the relationship.
yeah. So you know, so if you didn't say this explicitly, but I'm thinking this may be so. If it isn't, I'll just push you a little bit on this. That that I'm just thinking the way you're speaking about the sunrise that you and your wife enjoy at the beginning of the day is actually uh, a kind of a kind of beacon that informs how you practice your whole day, which is with
Agreed.
gratitude.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it it's 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 the ex, it's the outward sign of how it is you want to be inwardly present to the entire day, which is with gratitude, with amazement, with sense of wonder, joy, some of the words that you've used.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's it's a kind of starts with the whole conversation that we began with, which is trying to choose the way of being throughout the day, trying to not come from jealousy, not come from envy, not come from some of the things that are lacking, but coming from the things that you're appreciating and I'm appreciating. The relationship, the moment, those things.
And that so rings true to me, Steve. And I'll circle back to what we were talking about when you were you were so transparent when you were talking about some of your own emotions when you were in 20s and 30s. I think that if we can get in touch with the miracle of our own lives, of where we find ourselves now, given from where we've come, um, that also will inform our sense of wonder, um, will also fuel our sense of hope for the future, given where we are now from where we have come, which is another reason I think to be on speaking terms with our past, um, and where I think an experience of jealousy or envy can be so, I mean, paradoxically, they can be so helpful if we use those emotions as revelations, not as incarcerations. If we can ask the question or give someone else the invitation to ask us the questions, why? If you're envious or jealous of someone or something, why? And keep asking the why until you get down to what matters the most in life. That's the real deal. That is becoming real, I think. That is becoming real. And I think it's being really and fully alive, not just virtually alive, not but freely and fully alive. And that's the real deal. That's the real deal. I think this is where, if we can be on good speaking terms with ourselves, with our past, with the miracle of our lives, given where we are in light of from where we've come, then we can use the emotions we get in touch with around envy and jealousy uh, as revelations, um, that they can be sources of liberation, and not just incarceration, but they can be liberation, because we can claim the miracle of our lives uh, from where we've come, and we can cut and paste or copy and paste that emotion into the future, which is hope, which is hope for the future. That if I can be where I am now, given from where I've come, the same miracle is going to keep working its way out into the future. That's hope. That's hope.
That's absolutely fantastic. It's fascinating. I did not anticipate that the conversation around envy and jealousy would turn to the conversion and transformation of hope and bridging the past in the future. I did not anticipate that. Just brilliantly done, Brother Curtis. Brilliantly done. So I have a request. We're going to, if you're up for this, and something that we talked about doing, it's something that you've done in the past. Are you up for doing a brief guided meditation on this topic, or anything that you feel comfortable with?
Yeah, yeah. I'd be glad to, Steve.
Okay. So our assumption is that people will be in a safe space, that they're not going to be driving or walking on a treadmill or doing anything like that. That they'll be in a position where they can you set up the context of where you'd like them to be to listen to this conversation with you.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I'd like to invite you to use the miracle of your breath uh, to breathe in and breathe out with intention. Um, and I want to invite you to breathe out anything which may be clogging your soul, something that is in the way of your being fully and freely alive. We've spoken some today about jealousy and envy. Um, so I'm going to use this word envy uh, and encourage you to breathe out envy and to breathe in hope, to breathe out envy and to breathe in hope, to breathe out envy, to breathe in hope, to breathe out envy, to breathe in hope, to breathe out envy, and to breathe in hope, to breathe out fear, and to breathe in love, to breathe out fear, and to breathe in love, to breathe out fear, and to breathe in love, to breathe out fear, and to breathe in love, to breathe out fear, and to breathe love, to breathe and to breathe in love. And I encourage you to continue that if it's meaningful. And you find the words that are most meaningful. What is clogging your life? What is in the way? Breathe that out. And what will help you beyond the way? To breathe that in. And to breathe that repeatedly. How long? You'll know. You'll know. And insofar as you breathe with some regularity, this could be a practice that you take through your day. I'd like to give you several questions, um, which may be helpful to you as you contemplate your life and what gives you meaning in life and freedom in life to be wholly who and what you are. One is this question about being. What are you called to be in life? What is your vocation? Vocare, calling, your calling. What are you called to be? I'm not talking about your job. I'm not even talking about what you're to do, but what are you to be? What are you to be? I'll give you an example. I mean, I became aware when I was very, very young, 10 or 11 years old, that I was to be kind. I didn't make that up. I simply became aware of that. What about you? Where do you have clarity? What are you called to be? Because that will inform how you practice your work now. It will also inform how you deal with a checkout clerk at CVS or a flight attendant uh, or someone who's cleaning up around you. Um, it will also inform what happens when you have less control in your life and when you are a person in great need um, because of illness or limitation or advanced age. What are you called to be in life? which is your vocation. What are you called to be in life? And then I'll ask a related question. What do you need to claim from your past? What do you need to claim from your past that has informed how you miraculously have lived into the present moment? And when I say, what do you need to claim from your past? There may be some wonderful things in your past. People who had great influence on you, uh, family members, neighbors, friends, teachers, coaches. What do you need to claim from your past? And what is it from your past that you need to relinquish? What is it from your past that you need to detach from? Is there anything from your past that is incarcerating, um, from which you need to claim freedom? What do you need to claim? And what do you need to detach so you can be fully and freely alive now? And I say this to you who are in a helping profession. Help is very helpful. And people in helping professions need help. You need help. You cannot pull this off alone. So I encourage you to find the help that you need, because it's out there and you're worth it. Help is helpful. Get help. You cannot do this alone. You cannot do this alone. I'll end here with some words from Mary Oliver, the great poet from the New England part, not very far actually from where I'm sitting just now, on the Cape. Mary Oliver said, "To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your life depends on it. And when the time comes to let it go, to let it go."
Thank you, Brother Curtis.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome.
Beautiful
My
day.
honor. My honor to be invited into your Atticus family, Steve.
This is huge. It's a fantastic, great conversation. Thank you for the time. Thanks for taking time away from your retreat at the Cape. And I look forward to our next conversation. I really do.
Thank you. And my honor, Steve. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Grace.
Thanks for joining this week's episode of Great Practice, Great Life. Please tune in weekly to get the next episode. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, like, and don't hesitate to share it with a friend who you think this episode could help. With that, thanks, and I hope you enjoy next week's episode.